Hey, Mike. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. The little live thing is up there. That means
Oh,
we're probably talking to more people than just ourselves.
yeah. And what a week. I mean, holy
Yeah.
moly. I was just talking to somebody and they were like, oh, yeah, you did that urgent panel on Monday. And I said, Monday of this week? Yeah, that was Monday of this week. We talked about that malware kit that was discovered and made public by CISA. We spoke at the meeting of the Alaska Primary Care Association,
Yep.
but we did not go to Anchorage, which, by the way, I think was a mistake. I think we should have gone to Anchorage. And then yesterday we had a 6-hour meeting together for a quarterly business review. So been a busy week.
Which was good, but it did seem like it between Monday and Tuesday, it seemed like it take a week for those 2 days to go by. And smashed in there were all the regular meetings and the talks with the schools and states about the Pisces project and the PR stuff.
Mhm.
And I did a cool interview with the Rain Network, which is
Oh yeah.
part of Stratfor, right?
Uh huh. Uh huh.
And the band jammed on Tuesday night, which is a good way to get a workout and make my arms hurt real bad. So all good.
The band jammed.
Hmm.
Wow, that's good. I didn't know you got that in too.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
You know,
couple of times a week.
You think it might be easier if you switch to country music? I
I
mean, you
do.
could do, there's a tear in my beer and I'm crying for my network. No,
No,
no. Okay.
no.
Uh, see, this is why I don't sing. So, although I might be a better singer than you. So, hey, before we dive into the news, one thing to note this coming Tuesday, we'll be doing another panel to update everyone on what we know about the state and local cybersecurity grant program. That's IIJA, or
Mm.
people are calling it IJA.
Aisha.
IJA.
Sing
Anyway,
the damn song. Oh no, never mind.
that's the Infrastructure and Improvement Jobs Act. People are trying to figure out how they can get money. Mike's been on the phone this week talking to everyone he knows in state government and DHS to get a line of sight to the grant applications for local governments. Also, we're doing security awareness training, not this Friday, but next Friday.
Right.
And we're doing a webinar with our partners, Assimile,
Oh yeah, that's
for
right.
medical environments. If you need registration links to any of those things, email me, Jake at criticalinsight.com, and I'll get that to you. Nobody came here for any of that. They want to hear more about the federal government warnings. Mike, tell them.
Um,
Tell
the
them what is happening.
the warnings are coming out with some regularity right now. And
Uh,
based on past performance, where the administration said, "Here's what's going to happen," and then it all happened. I mean, that's giving a lot of people some pause still. The
mhm.
most recent one, which I think was from yesterday, is more specific about Russian state sponsored and state adjacent actors that
Mhm.
have conducted malicious cyber operations and targeted the energy sector, aviation companies, cybersecurity companies like us,
Mhm.
journalists, etc. So you combine those two pieces of information, right? The news about the SCADA toolkit for disrupting utility operations, plus this one that just came out being very specific about these actors that are really going after utilities and energy and things like that. We seem to be in a bit of a precarious place right now. I think a lot of people are just kind of watching and waiting. The title of that bulletin, if you want to Google it up or Bing it up or whatever you do, duck go it up, is Russian state sponsored and criminal cyber threats to critical infrastructure. So, and it's also in today's news blast if you get the news blast.
Yeah, and wait, and there was another one also about an agriculture warning. Hey, because it's the growing season,
Yeah.
ransomware operators might attack that. I have to ask, and I do want to ask about the connection to Russia and everything here, which they put in the title. But I mean, Mike, this is a lot of CISA warnings. Have we ever seen them do this many at once?
No, and I think this is part of the cultural change that we've kind of seen. So first of all, I mean, the administration has gone after criminals in a big way, more than any other administration has ever done, and it's about time. Um, but I don't know how to answer the question.
Yeah.
I do not know how to answer the question. It seems like this is just how they're going to run it from now on, right? Because they've always talked a lot about information sharing.
Mhm.
And this is them sharing information with us, because usually it's always wanted to go the other way, right? Hey, we're DHS, you tell us what's happening.
Right.
Now it's
And then we're
going
going to
the
be
other way.
super secret. Right.
Right. Now it's going the other way, and they're making things as public as possible so that everybody is aware, and combined with, now there's going to be some statutory teeth to, you will tell us what
Yeah.
happened within 3 days, right? So, you know, things are changing, I think, in what I want to think is a positive direction. There's a lot of pushback on this whole 3-day reporting of the event stuff, just
Yeah.
because we don't know what happened yet. We may say the wrong thing. It may reflect badly on a business. There may be customer flight, things like that. And I get that. So we'll have to see if this trend continues. But I like it so far.
Yeah. And by the way, there's still no sign of any widespread infrastructure disruption, the way we're seeing, Russia do things in Ukraine, right?
Right. It's just warnings, right? But remember those state adjacent gangs. Okay, so we may not see utilities being knocked over now,
Hmm.
but they are ramping up the ransomware. CISA also warned about, just the warnings just keep coming.
Hmm.
This very aggressive Hive ransomware gang, and how the health sector in particular is a preferred target. So, they do this double extortion by stealing a bunch of records and holding those in reserve before the encryption hits. And they also operate, as a ransomware as a service model. So these are bad guys.
What
That's
scumbag? Can I
doesn't
say
need to be.
scumbags on
Yeah,
LinkedIn and
sure.
YouTube? I don't
I don't
know.
know.
I don't know
We'll
if I can
find
say
out
that,
later,
but
won't we?
I guess if YouTube can make somebody a star for crashing his own plane, I can say scumbag.
Sure.
But I mean, like, really, like, God, doesn't it just make you angry? Like, who goes after hospitals? Like, oh, anyway. Um, by the way, and there was another article on what Biden's options are if Russia does attack U.S. infrastructure.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought that was
so
interesting too.
what are those options? Because, like, I didn't see missiles in that playbook.
Well, speaking of which, did you see that the Russians just launched an ICBM?
I did. It did not make me feel all warm and fuzzy. But I
Me
also read an
neither.
article that it doesn't change anything for the US. Like, it
Yeah, the
doesn't, like,
U.S. knew about this. They were forewarned, and they said this doesn't change anything. Well,
right.
so just remember, whatever toehold the Russians have in U.S. infrastructure and networks, we have that in theirs. In fact, there was interesting language in that piece regarding how Putin has been told exactly that. It was a former NSA deputy director. He said, "We've made it clear. Let's just put it that way." All right, which is really interesting language to use. Now,
Hmm.
will that be a deterrent? I actually don't think so. I mean, let's face it, this guy has shown a willingness to bring suffering to his own population. So, we could just end up with this tit for tat set of cyber operations, but we're not going to know until the ones and zeros start flying. And I think the way that they're flying right now is the criminal gangs are ramping up their pain. Like you say, this
Right.
timing with the ag sector, something that happened in the ag sector may not look like critical infrastructure, like a dam operation falling over or something like that, but it has the potential to really smack the economy hard.
Yeah, and by the way, one of the government actions we saw, is that takedown of the, what
Hmm.
was it called, the Z Loader botnet,
Yeah.
that distributes Ryuk ransomware.
Hmm.
And that's another one that hit the health sector particularly hard. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's a big win, right? I mean, and we didn't know until the ones and zeros started flying.
Okay, so this that takedown was a combined effort by some private sector companies, Microsoft, ESET, Palo Alto Networks was in there, but also, interestingly, the Health ISAC and the Financial Services ISAC, right?
Hmm.
Information Sharing and Analysis
Hmm.
Center,
Hmm.
which is supposed to be the sector specific place where you can have conversations and say, this thing happened to me, and they can tell the rest of the sector, but they don't make stuff, public. Um, that's actually a very good demonstration of what we were just talking about, how information sharing can work across sectors, right? Because it's the health ISAC, the financial sector ISAC. So, again, they're trying to get organizations, we have been all this time trying to get organizations to do this voluntarily, which doesn't work so well. And now we're going to require mandatory incident reporting to build up that national radar, right? Which is a good thing. we'll have to see how this pans out.
Yeah,
But
and
but I think that's a really good example of how it's supposed to work.
yeah, and Gabriel puts in the chat. I don't know what side the chat's on for everybody watching the chat. Gabriel puts in the chat. Being security forward is the way. Can't say I disagree at this point.
Yeah.
Um, in other somewhat financial news, it seems like there are a lot of hacks of crypto exchanges, Mike.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Millions of dollars. I
Yeah.
mean, that's not. I mean, it's funny that might become Russia, but right now that's North Korea, right?
Yeah, that's North Korea. And so they just pinched, I think, $600 million from one exchange. And it has been suggested, reported, inferred, that the funds they raise in this way are used for their weapons programs. And here they are shooting off missiles themselves with greater range and capabilities. So,
Being here in Seattle, that makes me feel really warm and
yeah,
fuzzy, just like the other thing. Yeah, good.
dude, I'll tell you again, I live halfway between a nuclear sub base and a shipyard that fixes nuclear subs. So I'm with you. you know now those two things do seem to be connected, right? The influx of all the ill-gotten gains and the outgoing missiles. That's, I think, a causal relationship rather than a correlative one.
Hmm.
And at some point we're going to have to get nasty about this, but right
Hmm.
now our gaze is fixated on Russia. But put a pin in this North Korea issue, because we will likely be doing something about that soon. The amount of money that leaves this country every year through this kind of stuff is astonishing. And the crypto exchanges, they're getting huge amounts at a time.
Yeah, and what did the last analysis say? Six trillion a year.
Hmm.
You know, is the amount Netflix lost this? I'm just kidding.
No.
6 trillion a year.
Yeah, yesterday. Yeah.
Is the global cost of cybercrime.
Yeah.
Third largest business or economy in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it bigger than California. Something
Okay.
like that, right? I mean, it's huge.
Yeah. In fact, yeah. The whole math about 80% of that 6 trillion is, the long tail. 20% of that is direct loss.
Mhm.
75% of that 20% goes to Russia. That's pretty interesting little thought experiment to see exactly how their economy is being buttressed by stealing money from us.
Mhm.
Changing the subject just a little bit, there are a couple this week on privacy and surveillance that I thought were interesting.
Mhm.
And I do know that was a crappy segue.
That was.
Yeah. Did you hear about this CIA package called Beehive that they use to monitor and attack global targets? This platform does like all the things our pen testers do, right? Remote scanning, exploit vulnerabilities, exfiltrate data, move around laterally, intranet, destroys. I mean, this is the real deal. Has unified command and control, and they say, and I don't know how they know this because this is an awful lot of information, but it displays artificial intelligence behavior.
Mhm.
So this was developed for the CIA by Northrop Grumman, and it was outed by the Chinese. So if you read the article that describes all the capabilities this thing has, it is
Mhm.
amazing.
Mhm.
So yeah, we have offensive capabilities and this whole defend forward business that the DoD is in. No kidding. So the fact that the Chinese outed that kit means the whole world now knows exactly what those capabilities are, and hopefully that gives them a little pause.
Hey, so,
Maybe.
to your point about the fact earlier, you talked about the fact that we have the capability to hit, Russian infrastructure too.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, there are war crimes. Do you think, there's The Hague, there's war crimes, that's all about physical war.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to need some rules at some point about the rules of cyber war?
We need rules about a lot of stuff, and you know, offensive cyber capabilities is one of them. It's interesting that right now the Chinese government is trying to be the setter of standards, which is laughable on the face of it. But yeah, I do hope some kind of rules and norms of behavior are the outcome after we're done with all the cyber warring. You
Good
know,
ideas come from
yeah,
strange places sometimes.
yes,
Although, Russia is also trying to be the world's moral compass. So,
mm.
yeah, there's that.
Also laughable on the face of it.
That was my laugh on the face of it. All right, threats and vulns, Mike. What do you got?
First one more on privacy. This is a good one. A class action suit has been brought against a company that harvests and sells location data for 50 million cars. So good, more like that, please, because this whole tracking everybody's movement and making data available to anybody that wants to purchase it does not end well. All right, now T's and V's. Well, here's the easy one. Chrome again. Hey, another week, another Chrome 0 day. So it keeps getting emergency patches and it's under active exploit. So fix that. Android just updated. So both of those, make sure you personally take care of both of those things. You have an Android phone, you got to get the operating system update. Chrome, just go to settings. It's easy to do. You can just type in update and know what to do. Let's see. Lenovo computers are vulnerable to malware that cannot be removed because it burns itself into the firmware. Okay, this is another of these UEFI problems, and something like 10 million computers are vulnerable, more than 100 different models. So wow, pay attention to what Lenovo will be trying to tell you soon. Here's a good one. Kaspersky has put out a free decryptor for some ransomware variant I can't pronounce. Yan Luo Wang. All right. I don't know.
Well done, Mike. That was great. You pronounced that perfectly.
Thank you.
As a native speaker, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Okay. It's well, I did it in Mandarin. It should have been in Cantonese. There's another zero-click vulnerability in iPhones that has been weaponized by the NSO group in the Pegasus product, and it's showing up all over the place. A couple articles this week actually about how just pervasively this stuff is being still used by governments.
Hey, commenter here on YouTube, because hey, we're broadcasting live on YouTube too.
Hello, YouTube.
And we're not crashing planes. Do we think China and Russia would hold to any international cyber rules of engagement? Well, I'll give my answer and then you give your answer. I think it's the wrong question to ask. I mean, it's the right question to ask, wrong question to ask. Right? I mean, the answer is no, but we still need, standards for war crimes. Like we figured that out as, a United Nations, governing body. And, Russia is clearly committing war crimes in Ukraine. And what it does is it gives the rest of the world a stick. So you sort of know that the bad actors are going to violate war crimes, but it gives, well, frankly, the good guys a stick and says, hey, there are standards here, and now we can punish you for the bad things. And, maybe not Russia and China, but, for some smaller country, it means that those leaders of that of wherever they are can't travel anywhere because they're going to get arrested and dragged off to The Hague. That's my answer to it. I don't know.
Well,
Mike,
your
what's
answer is it depends on the effectiveness of the enforcement. That's what your answer is. And I would say the same thing, except I would put it in the context of some of the stuff that we know is happening. Like, for example, Russia is making moves towards disconnecting themselves from the rest of the global internet. Okay. Well, they can only do that so far. If we ever get back to a spot where we're doing legitimate business with them, when you have rules of behavior that treat your logical border like a physical border, and if it's just like we don't want immigrants sneaking over the border, right, and not being counted or anything like that. Well, we don't want your packets coming in if they're malicious and steal money from us. So if there was a way to enforce by dropping packets at your border, which I think it's going to go this way. I think the world is the internet is going to balkanize, and we are going to have rules of behavior that say, if your packets cross this point, our logical border, here's what we expect. And if we don't, if our expectations are not met, we're locking you out. So if that type of enforcement, yes, we can sanction their people, and yes, we can not do business with their banks and things like that. That only goes so far, but freezing them out so that they can't even steal money, that's going to hurt.
Hey, you know what we need to figure out how to do? We need to figure out how to broadcast this live on WeChat.
What?
So that people in China can. Anyway, all right. Hey, every time I come up with a new piece of social media, it's a bad idea?
Yeah, it's a bad idea.
It's very rude of you to call it a bad idea
People would be
publicly.
correcting my Mandarin.
Yeah, that's a bad thing.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, we're almost out of time.
Yeah.
Kicker is the thing at the end where you make everybody smile.
Oh,
Would you either give us a story that makes us smile or sing the lyrics to your favorite country music song?
no, because it's "Sing Me Back Home" by Merle Haggard, and you don't want to hear that. About a dude on death row just wants to hear his buddy play a guitar one more time. So, I think more trouble for the NFT bros. I'm just getting just infinite amounts of Schadenfreude from this.
Mm-hmm.
So in this one, in this chapter, Jack Dorsey, former CEO of Twitter, turned his first tweet into an NFT, right? Non-fungible token, right? Can prove there's
Mm-hmm.
this copy. You can prove you own it, even if it's pictures of it all over the place, which is dumb. And an Iranian investor bought it for $2.8 million. Jack Dorsey's first tweet. Okay. Now that investor is trying to sell that asset and he listed it for $48 million on OpenSea.
Mm-hmm.
The top bid was 280 bucks. So just goes to show you that these fad art investments are
Mm-hmm.
nothing more than digital data that will someday all be forgotten. Now,
I know what we
I
should
think
do.
that's ironic and reasonably funny. You may not.
I know what we should do.
Hmm.
The North Koreans stealing all the crypto.
Yeah.
We should have them just steal all the NFTs. Then it's not worth anything.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Hey, and by the way, every time you say non-fungible, all I can think of is mushrooms. And every time somebody says non-fungible, all I can think of is mushrooms. And every time somebody says it, the joke pops into my head. What do you call a mushroom at a party? Fungi. All right, and with that, I'll say goodbye to everybody.
God.
Goodbye.